What's up, guys? This is Viet, and you are listening to the BBYK podcast. Before we begin, a quick history lesson. You see, Johnny Antoinette was the last queen of France before the French Revolution. She was considered by many, pound for pound, one of the greatest queens of all time. She was married to Louis XV and lived a life that proved at times quite controversial. She would frequent opium dens on her trips to China, and she once hit a pregnant woman with her carriage. Despite all of this, she lived a semi-charmed life. While on a 2-year bender in Brazil, her husband started a torrid affair with Damian du Cormier. Upon Jean Antoinette's return, she and the courtesan in question started a heated rivalry. One day, while feasting on pamplemousse and baguettes, Jean Antoinette overheard her servants who were concerned about what to feed Damian because she wasn't fitting into her Reebok corset. To which Johnny replied, "Let him eat." We got a good one for you guys today. We're going to be breaking down one of the most excellent cards of the year, UFC 214. We got 3 title matches and numerous relevant fights that we need to get to. And I'm joined by fight consultant and my good friend, Matt Two-Stripe Alexander. Online, he goes by Brostradamus because he calls the fights, he calls the rounds, he calls the finishes. Not always correctly, but he does call them. Very confidently.
I always get somewhere in the ballpark, and if you look at it vaguely enough, it's all true.
You have been ridiculously correct sometimes in the past. It's almost it's freakish. It's freakish, my friend. And not here, David BC Bridges, living up to his original BC name, having to pull out podcast after podcast. I mean, what is this?
He's probably still broken up after, Misha leaving him.
Not since his last Pick'ems article have we seen such a no-show. That's it. No more.
No, it's too savage.
Too savage. Yeah, I can't. It's all right. It's fine. I think he wanted to be here. He's just busy. But,
sorry, David. We love you.
So, this is a really exciting card. Probably the best card just from a star power standpoint, the names, the relevancy, and what all of these big fights on the main card mean within their respective divisions. We're talking about 3 title fights, and then the other 2 fights are between guys that are, we're talking about top contender guys that are potentially, they win this fight and you're putting them into that title contention picture. So we got a lot of very important fights on this card. We're just going to start with the first one on the main card. I think you and I, we talked about this on the podcast before, but how far these 2 guys have gone, Jimmy Manuwa and Volkan Oezdemir. A year and a half ago, these guys weren't even top 10 guys. We weren't talking about them. And now legitimately in that division, we're saying, hey, the winner here, they're kind of having their eyes on the winner of Jones Cormier. What do you think?
I think it is a testament to them and also to the weakness of the division. But it should be fun. And I'm calling it right now. Jimmy Manuwa, 2nd round comeback TKO, followed by a celebration like he's a world beater and calling out the champ and acting like he deserves a $30 quadrillion contract.
I like it. That's a I was going back and forth on this one, to be honest. I think they're pretty evenly matched, and I think that we may have ourselves a good one here just because styles make matchups. You have 2 really good strikers. We actually haven't really seen either of them pushed on the ground yet. We haven't really seen much of Manuwa's game. I think at best you could say his ground game is questionable. We've seen a little bit of it from Oezdemir, just from his Muay Thai background. I think he's going to have the edge when it comes to the clinch game and the grappling. One of the things to look at here, the differences in style, right? Manuwa, he's more of your counter striker, waits for the guy to come in, make a mistake, and make him pay for it. That's the way he completely iced OSP, the last guy he fought, to put himself into this position against Oezdemir. I say put himself in this position, but I guess Ozdemir's the one with the he's the one lower ranked, so this is his opportunity beating Manuwa. Manuwa, like you said, he likes to celebrate. He had talked himself into a war of words with the current champion Cormier.
Yeah.
Like he was like, no, I should be the next one, which is just crazy because, like I said, we talked about it and we were like, what is he even doing? And then you look at the rankings and you're like, dang, he may have a point. There's really no one else.
Yeah. He's done quite well for himself, and then the top guys have just kind of obliterated a lot of the competition. So for rematches, maybe Gus might get one, but then he's teammates basically with Manuwa, so that opens up a lot of different things. He's a lot more active than Gus, so who knows what'll happen if he wins.
Yeah, well, Gus is just now coming out of his like semi-retirement.
Yeah.
So, and I'm so glad he's back. Not only because that division is lacking in other star power, but it's always good to have, like it's always fun in the sport to have like their best fighters active. And when he sort of semi-retired, it was like, dang, we're losing one of the top 5 guys in his prime. We already had to lose one of the top 5 guys in his prime earlier this year when, after Cormier defeated Rumble, he retired, and now he opened up a dispensary or something in Canada. He's got himself, he's making himself some money playing that the weed game. But you look at the two contrasting styles. I'm gonna have to disagree with you here. I like it for Oezdemir. I mean, he's a pressure fighter, and he's very consistent. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes, and I think it's gonna give Manuwa some trouble. As we've seen before, Manuwa's not exactly, shall we say, he doesn't put together long combinations. He's not a low output fighter, but he doesn't stray too. You don't see him put too much together, and he really likes to go back to his boxing. And he'll employ, your basic 1-2, your check hooks, very accurate, very accurate striker, and that's kind of where he makes up for it. His lack of his volume and his combination, he makes up for it by just being such an accurate striker, and he has knockout power. I don't think we talk about him the same way as you talk about Rumble. He has a little bit of that in him too. He definitely has knockout power, and if he catches Oezdemir, I could see it being lights out.
Yeah, that's kind of how I see it going, is because I feel Oezdemir is better, more well-rounded, but Manuwa has good range, and maybe he doesn't have that crazy, scary knockout power, but I mean, all you need is a flash KO, and then it's over. Plus, Brostradamus sees things.
Yeah, he sees things. You see things.
I predict these things.
This is a big test for Oezdemir, the former training partner. I guess he's still a training partner for Alistair Overeem. Big test for him with a dangerous striker like Manuwa. I think just his motor, his output. I think he's gonna be able to get the job done, but. I hate picking against Brostradamus. Always makes me look foolish. All right, this next fight is one of those fights I think all fans are cautiously very excited about, but we're all kind of like biting our fingernails because this could be like the end of an era. Yeah. And of course, I'm talking about a potential barn burner. These are two of our favorite fighters, some of the most exciting fighters. I think you brought this up. Lawler was in, 3 of the last fight of the years?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just ridiculous. And I'm sure if they had like some kind of listing where it's like, this is the fight of the year, and then they rank like the next few, Cerrone has to have a couple top 10s in there too, with some of the wars he's been in.
Yeah. It's Lots of violence.
For sure. Now, Cerrone, it seems like, he either dominates or he gets his butt kicked. I can't remember too many fights where it was a good back and forth. There were some fights where even though he was kind of getting beat on, he showed heart and just an iron chin, was able to survive, grind it out, which is a testament to him. But I've never seen, the epic wars that like a Lawler has gone through. You go back and you look at both Rory McDonald fights, and it's you lose a little bit of your soul going into fights like that. And not only that, but in that second Rory McDonald fight, he was losing that fight.
Yeah,
he was losing that fight, and then I just remembered it was like the end of the fourth round or whatever, and he like kind of like spits out blood and like looks at Rory like, "Come on, let's go," and then the next round like finishes him with strikes, and it was, I mean, he lived up to his name, ruthless. Of course, he is coming off of a loss to Tyron Woodley. That's when Woodley won the title. That's the last time we've seen him. Now, some media donks like Luke Thomas said that, according to his questionable sources, he's wondering whether or not Lawler is going to be the same fighter in this one. Whether or not all the wars that he's been through, maybe it's taken something out of him. And we have to remember that, he came back to the UFC and he's had this brilliant run. He had a couple epic wars with Johnny Hendricks. And then, like I said, the fights with, he had the awesome fight with Matt Brown. Obviously, the wars with Rory McDonald. This guy's gone through a lot, and then he's coming off of a pretty devastating knockout loss to Tyron Woodley. So where is he at? Where is he at mentally? What did that take out of him? That's going to be the question going into this one. And I think a very similar question for Donald Cerrone. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. I see this going a lot like the Masvidal fight if Lawler's chin is still there, which I kind of called that last year. Or, sorry, Brostradamus called that last year with the Tyron Woodley fight. I thought, his chin has been through quite a bit in his career, and it's probably going to have an effect on him. Cerrone has crazy combos, but not quite the power of Woodley. But I think Lawler is just going to be tough enough and together enough after the layoff to get it done, and that he's going to finish Cowboy.
Yeah, I think I agree with you here, but again, the asterisks, if Lawler, if it's the same Lawler we've seen before, right? And we don't know. I think, like I said, when I prefaced going into this breakdown, I think all fans are wondering that. And there's a chance that Cerrone goes in there and he smokes a Lawler that looks like he's probably done. If he gets his butt kicked in this one, I would not be surprised if he hangs it up. And what a hell of a career he had. This it's almost like a career in two parts. He kind of took some time off, came back, made a run at the belt, got it, was just a very scary champion there for a while. So there would be no shame in walking away from the game now. He's accomplished just about all you can accomplish in the sport. But man, it would suck to lose a fighter like him. Now I'm talking as if like that's what we're gonna see, and that's just like me being pessimistic. It could be a chance that we see him, and like you said, he is mentally recovered from the Woodley fight. The time off has allowed him to physically recover, and we're gonna go back and we're gonna see a little bit of the old ruthless against Cerrone. And if that's the case, I do like him stylistically against Cerrone. Cerrone has shown so much improvement over the last few years. Working with the guys down at Jackson Wink, his striking has gotten a lot sharper. He has really looked like a different fighter at 170. But we've seen him, like the last fight against Masvidal, guys that can apply pressure and put together combinations. if you make Cerrone move backwards, he really gets uncomfortable. He's a different fighter. He really likes to establish his own tempo and get off his combinations first. So, Cerrone is a different fighter than Masvidal, but he is definitely a pressure fighter, and he's an active pressure fighter. So I think that's gonna give Cerrone some problems, and Lawler's one of those guys where when he starts landing, he starts smelling blood. It's gonna be tough. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. I think with just the names alone, we're like, man, shouldn't this be like fight of the night? These are like two absolute gamers. We'll see. I don't know. I don't know what to expect from the fight, honestly.
Yeah, I think somebody's getting finished, and I don't think it could possibly live up to the expectations, because people are expecting like Terminator's going to go in there, and then this cowboy's going to ride in on a motorcycle and jump over the thing, shooting shotguns and fireworks, and American flags are going to be going off in the background, and rock music, and then there's going to be explosions, which, at least half of those things will probably happen. But I don't think all of them will happen. And furthermore, Luke Donk Thomas, his source was probably not John Jones, but I don't think you need somebody that close to know that, Lawler's been through quite a bit. I honestly see Lawler retiring sometime pretty soon, actually. But I think he can still pull this out, even as long as he can survive, checking a few head kicks and shots to the head, because he tends to get hit a bit, especially against somebody like Cerrone's range and his kickboxing. But yeah, I feel like if he can just survive like the first half round without getting knocked out, he's going to just apply the pressure and get the knockout.
Yeah, he definitely has great technique for defense, but like Lawler, especially with kicks, sometimes he's not the most on point when it comes to his defense against kicks, and Cerrone's kicks are really that's really one of his like favorite go-to moves. He's really good at it, either head kick or kicks to the body. It's very quick. He doesn't telegraph it, and he's able to do it off of combinations, so he can get you moving and set you up where he wants to when he does that. If we're seeing the older Lawler, he was able to take some of those combinations ending with kicks from Rory McDonald. He was able to kind of stay in the pocket and just move off the center line and fire off his 1-2s. We saw guys like Jorge Masvidal, guys that are willing to stay in the pocket, trade with Cerrone, and push forward through the combinations, give Cerrone some trouble. So the same way we've seen guys like Masvidal, like Nate Diaz had a lot of success just straight up boxing Cerrone and then moving forward after combinations, really jamming up Cerrone, making him have to step back in order to land his own combinations, making it uncomfortable for him. That is something that Lawler also employs, and I see the pressure being too much for him. I think I see this fight for Lawler, and I think it's going to be a finish.
All right.
This next fight, we're going to have a new 145 champion, new women's 145 champion. We had one, and then she ran away. So we're going to have to crown a new one. But it's about time. I feel like all UFC fans, it's about time we had Chris Cyborg, the best female 145er on the planet, get to fight for the belt in the UFC. What do you think?
It's about 5 to 10 years too late, but better late than never. Oh, I'm calling it right now, though. Evinger wins by decision.
All right, well, let's break that down. Let's get into it. How do you see that happening?
I see Cyborg coming out strong, but maybe a little rusty, and also she's been having quite a bit of trouble with weight cuts. Like, not just because jumping to 140 for the catch weights, but like even 145 is still a pretty hard cut for her. I just think it might have taken its toll at this stage in her career, and she might have a physical advantage going in, but Tonya is so damn tough that I think she can take whatever Cyborg brings and keep throwing back at her, and over a 5-round fight, she's going to be able to wear her down and probably win by decision. I'm not sure if it's going to finish, but who knows? These things are clouded in mystery.
I like it, Matt. I like it, and I agree with you. Tonya is awesome. I really like her. You know, we have a lot of female fighters come onto our show, and they all have a lot of love for Tonya. You know, she's really cool. She's a really cool chick. Kind of has that like I don't give an F attitude.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a really big fan of Tonya. I'm going to disagree with you on this one. Kind of cool. We got the former Invicta FC featherweight champion against the former Invicta FC bantamweight champion in this matchup. I get your point with the longer layoff for Chris Cyborg. I think she last fought Lena Landsberg back in September of last year, whereas Tonya, she's coming off of a fight, I think March of this year. So she's been slightly more active. I don't know what that time off would do for Cyborg. Surely she's not someone that just kind of sits around, and you see her with the videos. She's constantly working on her game. She likes to go and compete in kickboxing too, and you've seen her bring in some high-level boxers to come shore up her boxing game. Not the most technical striker, but she's always made up for, shall we say, the lack of technique with just devastating ferocity and incredible, like, out of this world strength for that division. Something that most of the women she's faced have not been able to deal with. I think it's going to be the case here too. Tonya is very tough. I think Tonya will be her toughest opponent in the UFC yet. And this is not going to be an easy out for her. But, you know, Tonya will make it tough for her. Tonya will try to get in there. She'll try to create a lot of chaos, make the fight really dirty. But I don't know if that's necessarily something that, like, Cyborg is going to shy away from. I talk about Cyborg's lack of technique. She has gotten to be a much better striker over the years. And she's someone that even now, at this point in her career, she still is improving. And I expect her to go out there and make a statement. She's been kind of considered the best female fighter on the planet for a while. This is her first time fighting for the belt in the organization that's considered the dominant mixed martial arts organization. So I see her going out there and making a statement. And I think Tonya is going to put up a great fight. But I think a combination of just Cyborg's physicality and strength and her improved striking, I think it's gonna wear on Evinger as the fight goes on. So I see this for Cyborg. I'm rooting for Tonya. I really like her, but I see this for Cyborg, and I think it's gonna be a finish. I don't think it's gonna go to decision.
Okay, cool.
All right. Well, this next fight is an interesting one. I'm really, really interested to hear your thoughts on this one. Matt has not been shy about making his opinion known about the current welterweight champion. Not a big fan of
racist. Racist.
And on the other hand, you absolutely love Damian Maia. You really like him. You think he is what's good in this sport. We have a humble fighter. He is dominating using a traditional martial arts, kind of going back to his bread and butter and sticking with it. One of the last guys that's really doing that anymore and finding a lot of success doing it. And just he seems like such a really cool guy. At all of his interviews, he seems like very chill and very down to earth. Very easy guy to root for in Damian Maia. Let's get right into this one. The champ, on paper, I'm gonna have to say it looks like he has the advantage here. How do you see this fight going?
It's gonna go one of three ways. It's gonna be like the Silva fight between Maia and Silva, where it's just 25 minutes of absolute boredom and nobody doing anything or wanting to engage, or somebody's going to get finished, like, somewhat early. I love Maia, so I'm calling second round sub by rear naked choke, but it's going to be Maia. If Maia's smart, he's not going to go back to his, like, quasi kickboxing days where he thought he could just, like, head kick people. So he's going to have about 0 strikes from the feet, and Woodley is going to be smart, and he's, like, pretty precise in picking his shots anyway. So there's going to be, like, 2 strikes thrown from the feet per round. If we're lucky, Damian Maia pulls deep half guard, sweeps him, takes the back. Woodley holds on for the first round. Second round, same thing happens, and Maia just punches him in the head until he gets his arm in and chokes him out.
Okay. Yeah, I like it. Let's they're both really good at in their respective fields. So Woodley is going to be the very best wrestler that Maia has faced in the division. 2-time All-American wrestler. Maia, on the other hand, is about as good as it gets when it comes to jiu-jitsu. Is 2-time world champion. Maia's his abilities on the ground are just next gen. It's really exciting and fun to watch. You just have to really appreciate his craft. Extremely flexible. He's got great leg dexterity, great hip flexibility. It really allows him to do what he wants on the ground. I think we've talked about this off the air before. I think this is really going to be a collision of styles, and at some point they're gonna meet up. And it's going to be who can dictate their brand of fighting. Because Woodley, he likes to kind of back up, get towards the cage, and then explode at you, right? Maia is not really an explosive fighter, but he is a consistent pressure fighter. He's going to kind of prod at you with his jab. He's going to get in there. But he's not going to go for the explosive wrestling takedowns. You're not going to see Maia go for a double or single leg against Woodley. You will see Woodley try that against Maia. And it's going to be at some point, they're both going to want the same thing. Woodley's going to want to get on top and control Maia. And, Maia's going to want Woodley to get there so that he can have the chance to show off his wizardry. So I think we're going to see that at some point, and it's going to be who can actually control that position. So far, we've seen Woodley be able to control it just phenomenal technique, but also just brute strength. The way he is able to wrap his arms around people and control them, and transition once they're on the ground, it's something else. His top game control is some of the best in the biz. It's going to be really interesting. I think that the most interesting part of the fight is going to be when that happens, when it goes to the ground and we kind of get to see who's going to have the superiority there. Because I also think that's really Maia's path to victory. He needs Woodley to kind of be a bit of an accomplice, in order to win. Because if Woodley does what we've seen him do in his last few title defenses against Stephen Thompson and really plays a conservative game, which, he's a conservative fighter, or at least we've seen him become an increasingly conservative fighter, a very smart fighter. He's got an incredible takedown defense. He's very explosive. He's quick. He's got great footwork. It's going to be tough for Maia to get him down to the ground unless Woodley willingly puts himself into positions that he feels like he could capitalize on, but also simultaneously puts Maia in positions where he could turn it around and capitalize on it himself. Because I could also see this being a fight where Woodley's just like, look, you can't touch me. You're too slow. I'm going to use my takedown defense, my great wrestling to just stay away from you. And then use my striking advantage to get you a couple times, win on the cards, and then just, make you have to gamble against me.
Yeah.
And then, if Maia starts trying to as they say, get desperate for the takedown, start shooting in. Something similar to what we saw in that Rory McDonald fight with Maia, and Rory was able to really start capitalizing then and hurting him. Now, here's the thing: if Maia don't put it past him, he might engage in one of those exchanges, and he's willing to lose them, and then go to the ground, kind of like he did Matt Brown, the bait and switch. I believe in jiu-jitsu terms, it's I think they call it like a presenter. You make it look like there's an opportunity for your opponent to take advantage of a supposed weak position, but really you want them to get there because you feel like you are the superior technician, and that you can not only get your way out of it, you can put yourself into an advantageous position, like we saw with Matt Brown following up his strikes with Damian Maia. He, you could tell Brown, he was like, yeah, I got this. He was putting on some hurt. Even when Maia started doing his stuff, was so slick and it was so subtle that you could see it wasn't until the very point when Maia grabbed his ankle out and got him against the cage, and then was able to reverse position, get on top, and you could just see the look on Matt Brown's face, like, oh man, I done goofed. I messed up. I'm in his house now.
You took the bait.
So, I think
Maia needs to come out. I don't know how good his English is, but he needs to come out first round and just drop on the ground and be like, "Get him a guard, bro."
I'm really surprised that the internet seems to think Woodley is winning this hands down, and I don't really see it like that. They're like making it seem like a gimme fight.
No.
Like he's like, oh yeah, his speed is too much for Maia. Maia's not like, dude, Maia's slow as shit, and he's still able to deal with everyone. And also, they're like, oh yeah, Woodley's gonna overpower him. Like, Maia was an 85er. Like, he's used to grappling guys a division up. Like, I definitely think Woodley has the strength advantage, but it's not like this mind-blowing strength advantage. That Woodley, I mean, Maia's used to like being the weaker guy and still doing stuff at a higher weight class. So, and he's not a small guy. He's actually like, just like from a numbers perspective, he's going to be like the taller fighter. So how do you see gas tank being as an issue in this fight? I know a lot of people, with Woodley, I think the narrative is this guy is quick bursts of like just violence, right? Yeah. Even when he fights, we were talking about the way he sets up some of his combinations. It's almost like he's sprinting at the guy, and he lands them, and he's really, the thing is, he's a phenomenal athlete, and he's able to close the distance so fast. And I remember after that first Stephen Thompson fight, he was like, it's all by design. That's the way I fight. You kind of have like these quick outbursts, and then these moments of rest, and usually the rest comes from like cage control. Once he gets a hold of somebody, he can kind of push them up against the cage, just kind of grind on them, put his weight on them. And against Maia, that could be tricky because Maia does some of his best work against the cage as well. So how do you see it going if these two end up clinching against the cage? What do you see Maia having to do to be able to defeat the former champion in those, or to defeat the current champion in those situations?
I honestly think it's going to be a little different for Woodley. I see him not pressuring up against the cage that much for that reason, because I don't think he's going to try to use that position for rest, knowing what Maia can do. Strangely, I feel like if it does go to the ground, Woodley has the ability, if he's not trying to be very active with the ground and pound, he does have the top pressure to just hold Maia there and use that as a resting position, and if it comes down to that, they'll probably get stood up, but that's time that he gets to rest, and it also makes him look better on the judges' cards. So. And conversely, Maia isn't all that. He doesn't have all that great a cardio either, and he's coming off his third consecutive fight camp, and he's 40 years old, and he uses a lot of energy once he's in back control on somebody. So if Maia uses up energy like he normally does, I could see Woodley not having a problem with the pace, because I think Maia's going to slow down just as much.
That's an interesting point. I don't think I think the narrative is that the longer this fight goes, the more it favors Maia. And I would caution people that want to just go with the simple narrative. It's just simply go back and look at Woodley's last few fights. We said the same thing about Stephen Thompson, and that's fine. You can say, all right, this guy looks like he's a guy that kind of, because of his style, starts wearing down at the end of fights. And then this other guy, he has a style where it looks like he kind of heats up towards the end of fights. And that's what we saw in the previous fights with Stephen Thompson and Tyron Woodley. And then they fought each other and something completely different happened. I mean, that's why we have the fights. So I would caution people that just want to, take the simple narrative as truth and go, hey, Tyron Woodley, the way he fights, the longer this fight goes, the more it favors Maia. I think you hit it on the head. Depending on how the fight goes, Maia could be in some danger in the later rounds too.
Well, the other thing is, Woodley, he might tire as he goes, but he does choose those areas where he's gonna have a burst, and he's very good. His ridiculously good takedown defense, and also striking defense. He doesn't throw a lot, so he's not opening himself up to get hit a lot. So he's conserving energy that way, and then he's also very smart about cage control, like when to lean on people and when to make them come to him and just buy himself some time. So it's like 25 minutes is a really long time, but if you can split it into little sections of burst of energy and then finding little pockets of time where you can recover, Woodley does that better than anybody else I can think of. So he may have like a very low gas tank. Don't want to be racist, but low gas tank for his style, but he manages it with great efficiency.
Sounds like you hate Woodley the person, but Woodley the fighter, kind of admire him.
Yeah, he's really good, and I don't hate him too much as a person. He does complain a lot, but he's kind of jumped into that persona role as champion, and it's not like he hasn't had a tough go of it too. For his last 2 title defenses, it was people not giving him a chance, and then he had a draw, so he had to fight the same guy that he just fought, and it's like, there's a lot of contenders here, and he's like, I want to get the money fight. Well, everybody wants to get the money fight, but you're in a super competitive division, so unless you're Connor, you can't really do that.
Yeah.
But it's racist. It's probably racist.
I do agree with you. I think some of this was kind of, it looks like a persona that came out of him being the champion. Maybe he felt like, all right, now I'm the big dog. I gotta talk a little bit more. But I think the race issues, there is a truth, at least to him. I do believe he's not just like, he doesn't feel like he's BSing. He believes that there's some truth to that, and there may be a discussion that could be had about those issues, intelligently. I just feel like the way we've been going about it within the MMA community and taking the things that he says, it makes it very divisive. There is no intelligent conversation that can come from that. It's always just going to be like, oh, this guy's whiny, or like, oh, you're a racist. And when you start just labeling people like that, and there's nowhere for that conversation to go. So
that's why you don't go on Luke Thomas's show.
What a dog. But as a fighter, he's a complete fighter, and he's got a brand. There is a style of fight that Woodley brings. It's very consistent, and he's very good at it. He's very good at managing risk. He's got knockout power. His striking has gotten increasingly more fine-tuned each time we see him in the ring. And, he's got some really devastating combinations. His leg kicks are they're crazy. You see the way he kicks guys, and it's like it's almost like he sweeps them. When I think it was Dan Hardy that had pointed this out, but he kicks them so hard, a lot of them fall over from it. Yeah. He almost sweeps them up. So that's something that there's just a lot of things that he's really good at. Let's see here, are we getting we have one of our listeners that's called in just to ask us the question. Let's see here, we got David Bridges from Rockville. He wants to know, why is there no buzz for the best card of 2017. I don't know if I really agree with that. I think there's been a bit of buzz. I mean, they have their own press conference for this one event. So I think
there's a decent amount of buzz, but nobody recognizes John Jones because he shaved his head and he's waiting to shave his eyebrows so he can look like a super demon. And he's gonna lose. I'm calling DC third round TKO.
You're already doing that. You're jumping the gun. All right, I like it. Just to jump off that point real quick. I think there is some buzz. I just feel like after Conor Mayweather news, it was like every other card until that fight was they were gonna be in the shadow of that fight, and I think that's what's happening here, because otherwise Cormier and Jones is the best fight that you can put on in the UFC. Maybe not in terms of like the actual product on screen, but in terms of historical relevance and the relevance within the division. You have a true 1 versus 2, and not just like a 1 versus 2, but like across the board. There is nobody else in that division that has beaten either of these guys. And the only loss that they have legitimately is Cormier losing to John Jones. Now, John Jones has the loss to Matt Hamill. Elbowgate. So many gates with these guys.
Gates.
Yeah.
Gate.
You got the sex pill gate with John Jones. You got the towel gate with Daniel Cormier. And this has just been a long time coming. We've wanted to see this fight. It's obviously there's real bad blood between them, so it's always really fun for the fans when you got fighters that just look like they really hate each other and they get to go in there and settle their differences with a fight. And I think it's just been fun. At least we're sitting back, and as part of the MMA community, we talk about this, and it's always been fascinating to me how you have Daniel Cormier, who's seemingly the good guy, the all-American guy, Olympian, family man. People hate him. And then John Jones, hit and run. He was like, they never said I use steroids. It's like, yeah, but you use the stuff that people take generally after they come off of steroids. So
it's just gas station dick pills.
Yeah, it's like, okay, man. I mean, look, it's just you want us either. Look, yes, it's a much more favorable narrative that just think that John Jones is stupid enough to just take gas station dick pills. You're right. Like, okay, why would you do that? And I don't even think it was like, he said that like some guy gave it to him in like the gym. I was like, you just took like some off-brand Viagra from some dude at the gym. Like, you didn't make a wise decision there. So if you got in trouble, like, you definitely deserved that. But
so he did the Anderson Silva.
Yeah, no dick pills involved this time around. You got Daniel Cormier, who's fighting out of American Kickboxing Academy. American Kickboxing Academy, their facility is like incredible. That thing is like, it's massive. It's just this state of the art facility. I kind of feel like that it's like in the MMA world, they're kind of like the what was it? What's the bad guy from Karate Kid? What are those guys called?
Cobra Kai.
The Cobra Kai. Yeah. They're like the American Kickboxing Academy is like the Cobra Kai. Mixed martial arts.
Arrow to the Knee Academy, where they wrestle bears and juggle chainsaws. Yeah. Oh, I had to pull out of another fight.
I was just waiting for Cormier for his corners, like, sweep the leg. Which, by the way, we're gonna get into it here, but not a bad idea. I think one of the things that Cormier really needs to do is focus on leg strikes. I think that's one of the things that he's found some success with in the last fight with Jones. I think that it's something. Jones doesn't have any weaknesses. He's really good at everything. and he just has this freakish frame that was designed to be the best fighter of all time. So you got to find ways to give yourselves a little bit of an advantage. I think one would be to slow him down with those leg kicks. Take a little bit out of, because Jon Jones throws like, he throws a lot of teep kicks and those like stupid oblique kicks that are like, he's gonna ruin someone's career with those one of these days. You see guys,
but he won't. Oh, sorry. I was gonna say he won't feel bad about it because he's a sociopath. Yay!
Yeah, just a sociopath, a chronic eye poker.
Eye poker.
All right, well, you're calling this for Cormier. What is Cormier gonna have to do? Because I think that is, he definitely comes into this fight the underdog, and I think rightfully so. I don't know if I've seen too much from him to say to really map out a way that this fight is going to go differently than their first fight. So what is the change for you? Why do you think that Cormier is going to come out victorious this time?
He looks slimmer, and Jones looks more muscular, which means I feel like his cardio is not going to be as big of an issue, and he kind of mastered the clinch game. There was a really good BJJ Scout video on the clinch work between the two of them in their last fight, and I was like, man, all I seem to remember is him just like throwing uppercuts and then getting kneed in the stomach a lot. And apparently I did not misremember that. That is pretty much what happened. I don't know what he's going to do about takedowns, because last time he did not have very much success, but as long as he can spam the uppercuts, catch John coming out of the clinch, and not get caught with an elbow, he's going to uppercut him into oblivion, hook, overhand right, and stop him on the ground.
So you see him stopping Jones.
Yeah. Third round. Or fourth. Or fifth. I'm not sure.
I'll put this out there. This really is MMA fans really need to appreciate this fight. You really need to appreciate this fight. Every single fight is a fight on some fighter's path to greatness. It's very rare that you get to see the fight that will define greatness, and this fight will. This fight, if Jon Jones in his prime had to take a year off due to suspension, and is able to come back and beat the guy that's been wrecking house on the rest of the division and sitting quite comfortably as the champion. Man, if you didn't think this guy was the best fighter yet, him beating Daniel Cormier will really solidify his spot as potentially the greatest fighter, greatest mixed martial arts artist of all time. And likewise, with Daniel Cormier, after taking the belt and being accused of as kind of a fraud champion, and there's a lot of fairness to that, because Jon Jones, he wasn't beaten in battle. No one took away his belt. He was stripped of his belt due to his own mental midgetry. But if Cormier goes in there and he defeats a guy that we could argue is the greatest of all time, he then puts his name into contention as one of the greatest guys to have ever done it. He has done nothing but win at every single level of competition. He was undefeated before he fought Jones, and after Jones, he's been undefeated. This is the only guy that has beaten him. So to get one over him, man, that would look really good. Now, I know they've both said it, and if Cormier wins, they want to get that trilogy. I think you and I have said it. Cormier, my man, you are getting up there in age. Those weight cuts are hard for you, and you already got a nice gig over there, Fox Sports, calling these fights. Man, you get this, retire on top.
Yeah, definitely. It's all about that cake and chicken, Daniel. We love you.
Here's the thing about the fight game. It's just sports in general, and when it comes to who will end up being remembered as truly great, it's going to be their talent. It's going to be their fighting ability. And, I feel like Cormier, even if we want to say he is not as good as Jon Jones, if you take out the fact that they're both in the same division, we would be talking about Cormier in a very different way. If he has done what he has done in a different weight class, and the other guy that was in his weight class that was above him wasn't one of the greatest of all time. So I'm really rooting for him, but I get the appeal of Jon Jones, not Jon Jones the person, who, frankly, he just comes off a little tryhard, like all of his interviews. He just comes off like he made some joke about Cormier looking like a crackhead in a suit. And then Cormier is like, yeah, but at least I'm not actually a crackhead. And then like Jones kind of like rolled his eyes and looked at like it was like, oh, can you believe he even said something like that? And kind of did like the badum motion. And it's like, all right, man, you were the one that brought up the joke, and then he just he smoked you for it. Like, and then you're gonna sit there and roll your eyes like, I can't believe he said that. Like, come on, man, like. What is your personality? Like, who are you? Are you used to like be like this, like, oh yeah, I'm this good, humble Christian guy, and then like now what are you? You're just an asshole? Is that like your shtick? So Jon Jones, the fighter, in my opinion, this is the most complete fighter I've ever seen. The things he does and the way he continually pushes the sport. We see other people copy what Jon Jones does. The things that he does, it's almost like experimental. He's doing things we don't know if, like, I don't even know if he knows that they'll work. He just knows that he's good enough that he can pull it off and not really have to pay for it. The way he finishes people, we've never seen before. The way he operates with this clinch work, just how long he is and his ability to kind of control you, we just haven't seen it. And his ability to... like you brought up, to use those elbows to such devastating effect. And, we've heard from his camp, Greg Jackson is talking about how, they've been training on different ways of utilizing the elbows and how to really, make his opponents pay on the way in and then breaking off the clinch. He was already probably one of the best in the game at getting those short shots off in the clinch. The fact that, like, he's been working on that and improving, that's going to be tough for Cormier to deal with.
I think you're right that Cormier needs to kick at his legs, try to chop the leg down just like Jones' car did to that telephone pole.
Yeah, I think that's going to be his path to victory. I think his blueprint to rule the octagon. I had to bust that out at least once here.
No.
I think it's going to be if we're talking about that kickboxing range, and obviously Cormier, he's gonna have a severe height and reach disadvantage in this fight, as he's a shorter, stockier guy for the division in general. And that hasn't really given him too much trouble. I also want to throw out there, the first time you fight a Jon Jones, if you're talking about facing a guy that is one of the best of all time, then that's got to be an experience that's so unique. We've talked about how it's nearly impossible to find someone to mimic a Jon Jones in camp. It's a little bit easier to mimic, a stocky, elite wrestler type fighter in a camp. But it's nearly impossible to find a Dalsim like Jon Jones, who's also an elite wrestler and can do all the things he can do. So the first time experiencing that's got to be a little eye-opening, especially coming from a guy who has done nothing but dominate his opponents up until then. I mean, we were talking about how he fought Dan Henderson, who was, at the time was a guy that was being floated as a name that would fight Jon Jones. In fact, if you remember, he had a fight with Jon Jones that he had to pull out of due to injury. Sonnen was said that he would step in and fight him last minute. Jon Jones declined that. There was the whole fiasco. They had to cancel the card. Then they went on the tough. And then he ultimately did fight Sonnen, dominated him. And then he never actually ended up fighting Hendo. But Cormier fought Hendo and just ragdolled him, dominated him. Now, and correct me if I'm wrong, has anyone ever rematched Jon Jones? during his reign as champ?
Oh, I don't think so. As champion, I don't think so. Maybe not ever.
No one has ever really had a second crack at Jon Jones. So this is the first time we have a guy that has experienced sort of the incredible, almost otherworldly fighter that is Jon Jones. So that had to have been much more of a learning experience for a Daniel Cormier than it was for Jon Jones. And when he fought Gus, he took Gus to task. Like, he was dominating that fight. And the last thing I'll throw out there, we'll remember the victory. We'll remember Jon Jones doing the suck it symbol to Cormier and the trash talking afterwards, and him making fun of Cormier for crying on Cain Velasquez's shoulder and all of that stuff. And I think the little bit of that revisionist history where, like, yeah, Jon Jones, he basically just showed he was the best. He beat the only guy that was supposed to be the Jon Jones killer, and he just destroyed him, and he won. But go back and I would encourage the listeners, go back and watch that fight. I'm sure it's on free somewhere because the UFC likes to throw up the original fights whenever they have a big rematch like this. So you could probably catch it online right now. I'd go back and watch that fight. Cormier didn't get smoked. He definitely had his moments in that fight, and as the fight went on, Jon Jones was able to kind of control Cormier a little bit better. And it seemed like Cormier, when he didn't get the control he was used to, I think that bothered him a little bit. And he didn't adapt mid-fight as well as Jon Jones did. But he's had a couple years to train for this guy. And it doesn't matter who else you're training for in that division. Jon Jones was the guy to beat. So you got to think, even when he's training for Rumble, even when he's training for these other guys, he's really training for Jon Jones.
Yeah.
So, all that said, I am with you in that I am rooting for Cormier in this one. I really like his story. I think it's kind of a little bit of a dick move for Jon Jones to sort of make fun of his Olympic stuff. That was just his body physically failing him. He didn't know after he came back from the weight cuts and the kidney failures and stuff like that. He didn't know if he could even compete again. And the fact that not only did he go back to competing, he went into a completely new sport, mixed martial arts, learned it, and has dominated at it. I'm really rooting for a Daniel Cormier. Plus, he's getting a little bit older. I don't know how much longer he has in the sport, and he's got a nice gig on the side. And, like he said, he doesn't have any pressure anymore. He wanted to be UFC champion. He's been UFC champion. Rightly or wrongly, fans are going to say that his tenure as UFC champion has an asterisk next to it because he didn't beat Jon Jones. So it would be nice to see him beat Jon Jones and get that, and then just be able to retire and know that he has accomplished all that you can possibly accomplish in that sport, including beating who many consider the greatest. And by doing so, inserting your name into that conversation. That would just be so awesome. All of that said, Matt, I'm going to once again disagree with you. I think Jon Jones is going to be able to take this one. This guy he's just freakishly good. I'm not going to bet against Jon Jones until someone shows me that, like, he can be beaten. This guy has come back from everything and has managed to find ways of winning. Even when we think he's looking sluggish or, he's not looking great here, he finds ways to win. And there are just things that he does that are, no one else can do. And I'm also really excited just as a fight fan to see how much he has improved with his time off. And who knows, maybe there is going to be a little bit of ring rust and Cormier is going to be able to capitalize. And that maybe we see an even better Jon Jones. Either way, I do not see either man finishing the other one. I think this one is going to decision, but I'm calling it Jon Jones by decision. Real quick before we finish off our UFC 214 discussion, I do want to bring up a couple fights that I think are very interesting on the prelims, fights that mean a lot in their respective divisions. You got Barao versus Aljamain Sterling. Matt, just really quickly, how do you see that one going?
Aljo is going to lose because he keeps big dogging us and not coming on the show, but also because Barao has literally never been taken down in the UFC. I thought that was a mistake, so I had to go check it, and I was like, nope, he's literally never been taken down. So I see him winning by decision.
You want to know how impressive that never been taken down statistic is? He was concussed like 75 times by TJ Dillashaw, and TJ still couldn't take him to the ground. I mean, this guy can just be a walking corpse, and he still has great takedown defense. And considering Sterling has shown he really needs to be able to mix it up and employ that wrestling for him to be effective, I don't know if on his feet he can do enough against Barao. And we know Barao, he's got some devastating strikes. He's not bad on the ground either, but he's usually the one that dictates it if it goes to the ground. So I think I agree with you. I'm going to go with Barao for that one. And another fight. Everyone calls it, this is our sleeper pick for fight of the night. No, man, this is just going to be the fight of the night. You got both guys that are just willing to stand and bang. But like not in the pejorative sense. Like we're not talking about like Diego Sanchez. Like, all right, let's just like stand in the middle and like strike. They have that mentality, but these are both high quality technical strikers. How do you see this one going?
I'm calling. Got to go with our boy Hick Diaz, Jason Knight. He's the man. I got him by split decision. I think his ground game is really ridiculously good guard and rubber guard, and Lamas can take him down possibly, but if he does, I think Knight might be able to steal a round or two, and then see him being pretty even on the feet. So got him by split decision, but it's going to be a great fight.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great fight. I'm having a hard time calling this fight. Lamas is ridiculously good. Even, we watched the Lamas Holloway fight, and that was like kind of like Holloway's like, man, look how freaking awesome I am. And I felt like Lamas, you got to credit him. There were moments when Holloway kind of hit him with everything in the kitchen sink. Things were working for Holloway, and Lamas kind of weathered the storm and was still able to get stuff off on his own. Just a very durable fighter. It's really hard to finish this guy. So I have a really hard time calling it either way, but if you want to go from a Dave's Pick'em perspective, I believe Knight is going into this one the underdog, and if that's the case, then that's the play. Because I really think this is anyone's fight. And give me the guy, give me Knight then if he's the underdog going into the fight. I think that's it. That about wraps it up.
Way.
All right, guys. What do you think about our picks? You like them? You agree with them? Do you think we're absolutely wrong? We'd love to hear from you. So sound off in the comment section below. We also like to hear from you guys on Twitter. So go on and tweet at us at BrosBros. You can tweet at my man Matt here at BroBazGuy. I'll be putting that stuff down in the description below. Before we end this, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you guys to go check out another Rattling the Cage. This is a new series we've been doing. We've been putting them at the end of our podcast, but we've just decided, a lot of people have been asking for them, and they really like them. So we're just like, you know what? We're going to publish these things separately. So they're up on the site now, brosbros.com. You can check out his second one, Rattling the Cage 2. They're really funny, guys. They're but they're not for the weak.
NSFW.
Only the strong and the bold should venture forth to the realm known as Rattling the Cage. But I do encourage you guys to check it out. Really, really funny stuff. And we got another one that's going to be coming out shortly, so we're going to be hitting you up with that one. For the latest and greatest updates, hit that subscribe button, and you will know when the next Rattling the Cage will come out. So there you go. If you like this video, guys, please give us a thumbs up. And like I said, I encourage you guys to come check out our site, brosbros.com. And until next time, my friends, we are the Bros. You know.